Hello, fourth graders. It's Miss Rodriguez, and today I want to give you a lesson over making connections with texts. You will be able to define, apply, and understand the three types of connections, which are text to self, text to text, and text to world. Let's start with some vocabulary. What is connections? Connections are a relationship in which a person, thing, or idea is linked or associated with something else. What's text? Texts are the words that make up the main part of a book, magazine, newspaper, website, journal, etc. Why do we read? Being able to read is an extremely useful skill to have. For many people, it is one of life's pleasures. But what is the purpose of reading? We might read a text to gather information about a topic or idea. We might read a text to learn how to do or make something. We might read a text to understand the opinions of others. We might read a text to be entertained. In all of these situations, the reader must be able to decode the words on the page, then create meaning from them. The goal of reading any text is to create meaning. Without meaning, a text is nothing more than a series of words on a page. Reading can be frustrating and an unenjoyable process when we don't understand the meaning of a text. Reading comprehension strategies are tools that readers can use while reading to help them comprehend, understand a text. These strategies can help readers to stay engaged with a text and gain greater enjoyment while reading. Making connections. Making connections means finding links between what you are reading and your personal experiences, other texts, and the world. Before and during reading, it can be helpful to draw upon your own experiences, your experience of other texts, and your experience of the world around you to create meaning. These links can be defined as text to self, text to text, and text to world connections. What is text to self? How does the text relate to something from your life? These are a few sentence starters that can help us with understanding text to self. This reminds me of something that happened to me because, or this part reminds me of, or this is like the time, or this character reminds me of myself because, or what is this similar to in my life? Or this part is very different to my life because, or has something like this ever happened to me? Next, we have text to text. How does the text connect to another story you have read? Here are a few sentence starters. This book is like because. This character is like in the book because, or this reminds me of the book because, or how is this different from other books I've read? Or I read about something else like this. Text to world. How does the text relate to something from the real world? These are a few sentence starters. This reminds me of something that happened in the real world, or I saw something like this when I watched or read, or this reminds me of something I heard about because, or how is this text similar to things that happened in the real world? Or how is this different from things that happened in the real world? How to make connections. While you are reading, ask yourself the following questions to help you make connections. What does this text remind me of in my own life? How is this text different from my own experiences? Does this text make me think of another book I've read? Have I read anything similar to this text? How does this text relate to the world around me? You will listen to a read aloud of the book The Most Magnificent Thing. In this text, a young girl and her dog set out to build the most magnificent thing. While you are listening, use your prior knowledge to think about connections you can make to your own personal experiences, other texts, and the world around you. After reading, we will fill out a Making Connections chart together. the most magnificent thing. Here are a few questions that you can keep in mind while we're reading. Text to self. Have you ever been in a situation where things didn't go as planned? Text to text. Can you think of another story that includes a dog? Text to world. Has someone ever helped you build something? Now let's enjoy a reading of the most magnificent thing.
The Most Magnificent Thing, written by Ashley Spires, creatively read by Miss Jill. This book is written for all the little perfectionists of the world. This is a regular girl and her best friend in the whole world. They do all kinds of things together. They race, they eat, they explore, and they relax. She makes things. He unmakes things. One day, the girl has a wonderful idea. She is going to make the most magnificent thing. She knows just how it will look, and she knows just how it will work. All she has to do is make it, and she makes things all the time, so easy peasy. First things first, she hires an assistant. Next, they gather their supplies. They set up somewhere out of the way to work. The girl tinkers, hammers, and measures, while her assistant pounces and growls and chews. When she's finished, she steps back to admire her work. She walks around one side, and her assistant examines the other side. It doesn't look right. Her assistant picks it up and gives it a shake. It doesn't feel right either. They are shocked to discover that the thing isn't magnificent or good. It isn't even kinda sorta okay. It's all wrong. The girl tosses it aside and gives it another go. She smooths and wrenches and fiddles. Her assistant circles and tugs and wags. When she's finished, she stands up and takes a long look at it. Her assistant gives it a nudge with its paw. The thing is still wrong. She decides to try again. The girl saws and glues and adjusts. She stands and examines and stares. She twists and tweaks and fastens. She fixes and straightens and studies. She tries all different ways to make it better. She makes it square. She makes it round. She gives it legs. She even adds antenna. She makes it fuzzy. She makes it long, short, rough, smooth, big, small. One even smells of stinky cheese, but none of them are magnificent. Her hard work attracts a few admirers, but they don't understand. They can't see the magnificent thing that she has in her mind. And she gets mad. The angrier she gets, the faster she works. She smashes pieces into shapes. She jams parts together. And she pummels little bits in. Her hands feel too big to work, and her brain is too full of the not right things. If only the thing would just work. Crunch. The pain starts in her finger, but it rushes up to her brain, and she explodes. It is not her finest moment. No good at this. I quit. Her assistant suggests a walk. It's not much help at first. But before long, she starts to feel different. Bit by bit, the mad gets pushed out of her head. As they stroll along, she comes across the first wrong thing that she made. The bad feelings are about to start all over again. Then she notices something surprising. There are some parts of the wrong things that are really quite right. The bolts on one and the shape of another. The wheels to seat ratio of the next, yes. They are all sorts of parts that she likes. By the time she reaches the end of the trail, she finally knows how to make the thing magnificent. She gets to work. She works carefully, slowly, tinkering, hammering, twisting, fiddling, gluing, and painting. Her assistant makes sure there's no distractions. This is perfect thing for warding off them bears. This will stop the leaks. I wonder if I can have it. Ew, this one's all wet. The afternoon turns into evening. Finally, she finishes. She alerts her assistant. The pair take a good, long look. It leans a little to the left and is a bit heavier than expected. The colors could use a bit of work too, but it's just what she wanted. They climb aboard and take it for a spin. They are not disappointed. It really is the most magnificent thing.
Now that we've listened to the reading of The Most Magnificent Thing, let's fill out this connections chart. So text to self. How does it relate to something in your life? Let's think back and use our prior knowledge to remember about something in our life that this book reminds us of. For me, I can relate this book to my life. Of a time when I tried making a Pinterest cake, it did not look at all like the picture when I was done, and I was very frustrated, just like the main character. Next, let's look at text to text. How does it relate to something you've read in another book? For me, this book reminds me of another book I read, the book Clifford the Big Red Dog. The main character has a dog friend too. Now let's look at text to world. How does it relate to something that has happened in the real world? For me, this book reminds me of a time when my dad and his friends helped build my siblings and I a treehouse. Now, try to fill out the connections chart too with some things that you can add. Is there something that this story reminded you of?